For those that don't know, there was a modding scene for Half-Life, where people who didn't have much money and were looking for new gaming experiences could download and make their own games for free. Most mods only had a couple of servers each and might only be populated at peak time. The most well-known mod was probably Counter-Strike, which had players on it all the time, in the thousands. And it's no secret that Steam was designed to keep everyone up to date with its latest versions. While Counter-Strike was an immersive counter-terrorist game with hostages and bomb defusal scenarios, The Trenches was equally immersive in putting you in the trenches in France during the Great War. The history of the mod goes back to at least 2004. A lot of first-person shooters focus on competitive play, while in The Trenches you could be a bomber class where you had a bag of grenades and a bat, which wasn't much use against players that had rifles, but you'd still see players picking the wooden club because they were there more for the experience rather than just for the competition. So it's a bit like historical reenactment in a sense, or as we tend to call it in the scene, roleplay. Another mod that had a lot of military roleplay was the Revolutionary War mod called the Battlegrounds, where an officer would get on their microphone and organise players carrying muskets to line up and fire in volleys. One of the great features of The Trenches was the reload system, which was actually better than the Day of Defeat one, because you could reload single bullets. The sounds were great for all the explosions and the rifles. And it even had a music player with 3 music tracks. One map had a Mark V tank that you could get inside, and I think you could fire the cannons, but I've not been able to find it. I guess some of the files have been lost over the years. Battlefield 1 eventually came along and had me excited to see how they'd approach making a game set in the Great War, but I found that the experience was very different to the Trenches mod. Battlefield had gone more towards the automatic weapons and holographic sights with all sorts of terrain, while my understanding of the war was dominated by bolt-action rifles and trenches. It amazes me that Battlefield 1 had so many people working on it, and that the file size was 81 gigabytes, but I still prefer the gameplay of the Trenches mod, which was only 70 megabytes and put together by a few passionate players back in 2004. Verdun was a nice attempt at making a more realistic game, as opposed to the action style of Battlefield, but the simplicity of the Trenches still stands up, because Verdun had tried to add a bunch of gameplay mechanics, but executed them badly in my opinion. So to this day I still think the Trenches has something that hasn't been done since. Simple gameplay that allows players to just have a rifle, be in the trenches and enjoy the experiences they want. The Trenches wasn't a finished mod, and it would be easy to criticise its lack of content, especially its lack of players, but considering that it was a free game, I think that it's been a hidden and forgotten gem. I don't want to imply that people should play it because it's a dead game, but you're welcome to join the Steam group for it, which only had 101 members last time I looked. A lot of footage in this video was from a revival organised in early 2014 by that Steam group. I don't know if it'll ever have a revival again, but maybe someday in future a couple of us will get together and relive the old days. Like many of the old Half-Life mods, the Trenches had a Source version, which was called WW1 Source. But like Verdun, it had tried to add more game mechanics to it, but it didn't really have enough of a player base to flesh out the matches. The next iteration I think was Screaming Steel 1914 to 1918, which again was a modification, this time for Day of Infamy. It's no coincidence that I've made this video 100 years to the day since the armistice, as obviously the war is on a lot of people's minds all around the world. I hope that you've enjoyed this video, and I'd like to thank Killer Banjo for running the Trenches mod Steam group, and to you for watching, because I didn't imagine that I'd get more than 5 views on this, but it's still something I wanted to put out there. This is the first time I've ever made a video like this where I just talk about something that interests me, so feel free to leave feedback in the comments so I can get a feel for what people think about it.